Hey everyone, it is Nina, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about being a sixth line on the roof. So I have actually done a couple of videos on this about my ascent onto the roof, and that was around like age 33, and it has been pretty rocky. I'm not going to lie. And I'm starting to get comfortable in my own transition and where I'm at in my life right now. And so I wanted to kind of share the progression that I have gone through, the things that I have gone through, and just be like really open about the emotions that I have felt and the shifts that have happened in my transition up to the roof. So if you are not familiar with the journey of the sixth line in human design, basically we live our lives in three different sections, or three different phases. So the first is the first about 30 years of our life, and we live our lives as third lines. We live in trial and error. We are in it, and we are going in and trying different things and most likely failing miserably, but learning a lot from what we were getting our hands into. And then at our Saturn return, it can start around age 28. Things start to shift and change, and it might feel a little weird internally or energetically, and you're just not really sure what is going on. And that transition onto the roof around age 28 to 30 is when you're entering into the second phase of your life as a sixth line. And that journey onto the roof can take up until like your mid to late 30s, honestly, because depending on how aware you are or the things that you have going on or different aspects of your chart. Like I have gate 36 in my chart, in my north node actually, and so that's actually a theme of emotional crisis that I'm becoming more aware of, and I feel like has really profoundly impacted my journey as a sixth line onto the roof as well. So anyways, the second phase of being on the roof is around age 30 to 50. And in this time period, Ra talks about this being like the most successful time period of a sixth line's life. You're kind of you're on this roof, you're watching everyone else instead of being in the thick of things, and you're just observing. You're kind of like this fly on the wall. You're very aloof, and it's almost like looking through life through a glass pane. Like you're not fully engaged with it, and you're not like fully connected. At least that's what I have been experiencing. And you just kind of get settled in like what it is that you really want to do, and you get pretty successful in like your career or your relationships, and you just get more like grounded and solidified within yourself. Like you're not allowing external things to really shake you up too much, just because you are in such an aloof state. And around age 45 to 50 is when you start to make your descent off the roof. I personally cannot speak to that because obviously I'm not that old yet. But when you do that, you go into the third phase of your life as a sixth line. And that is when you really step into this role model as a sixth line, because you are taking all of your experiential, like in-person knowledge and experiences from the first 30 years of your life, and combined with being that fly on the wall and observing everyone in the second phase of your life. And you're taking that and embodying that wisdom. You are embodying on like a cellular level. And so when you come off the roof, you're basically becoming a third line again, is what Ra talks about. So that can feel like some people might be really alarmed by that. And when I first read it, I was like, oh no, I have to go back to being a third line. But it's gonna be a lot different. You're more mature, you have more experience, you're able to manage what comes your way more. A bit better, and people are going to be viewing you as this role model. And it doesn't mean you need to do anything in particular, it's just you embody the energy of the role model, so people will naturally be attracted to you because of that. So with that being said, those are the three phases sixth line typically lives their lives. And I am in the middle phase on the roof, and I'm 35, and so my journey up to the roof started around age 28. Things started to feel weird, and as a fourth line, it was difficult because I have my network, and it's like so necessary for fourth lines to have a really strong network. And what typically happens with people with the profile 4-6, when they transition onto the roof, their community, their network tends to crumble or fall away. some or if not all of it. And that can feel incredibly destabilizing. And that's actually what happened to me over the course of the past 6 or 7 years, basically, more so in the past year or two, actually. And so I would say around 33 was when the biggest shifts really started happening for me. And so everyone's going to be different as a sixth line of when things happen for you, and there's other things based on your chart. And I have an open heart center and open spleen. I was holding on to things that were just not in alignment for me, and I was really being forced to let go of a lot of my old life and things that were just not in alignment with me or for me or with me anymore. And so I really want to share that all the emotions and the things that I went through, because I feel like this can be a very lonely and destabilizing time period for sixth signs when they come onto the roof. And so from age 34 to 35, it's probably been the hardest year of my entire life. Like, I'm not going to lie. And I'm not saying that like in a negative sense, like basically like lost or let go of most of like the most important relationships of my life in the past year or so. And all of the like my group of friends has already like shifted in the past year. I have changed so much in the past year that the group of friends that I have now is unrecognizable from where it was a year ago, and it's still shifting and changing. So I can't even speak to where I will be in a month. And that's like how quickly things are shifting and changing for me. And I think a large part of that is now that I'm on the roof, I'm exploring and playing and experimenting with different things that are not attached to, the conditioning that I had with my open heart and my open spleen before. And so I'm actually being grounded and rooted and gravitating towards things that I want to do and that I want to play around with, and that is affecting who I am as a person and how I'm choosing to show up as every single day and the type of people that I'm hanging around with. And so I will say, like, Ra talks about how sixth lines are like their own soulmates, and that was actually something that I have really been exploring a lot this past year, because as I'm single, and I've been really forced to kind of redefine what my definition of love is, or like what it is, or what a healthy relationship is this past year. And it's, there was a part of me that was like seeking something external or a relationship or something to validate me or to make me feel loved or to prove my worth or prove my worthiness. And, I knew that was just mind stuff. And I kept repeating to myself, like, I'm going to be whole or feel whole and become my own best friend, because when I'm in that place of wholeness, I will not want or need for anything external. And from that place, I will just be happy as a clam operating in my life. Like, I don't need anything or anybody. It's not about isolating myself or pushing people away. It's just being so grounded and rooted within myself and happy about who I am and where I'm at, that I'm not seeking for external things for a validation or like going after things because I'm insecure or because I don't love myself or something like that. And so what I have found is, in this journey back home to myself of becoming my own best friend, there were time periods, I don't want to say time periods, I would say when I really became aware of this and intentional about this is what I wanted to do and experiment with and see where I went with this, of becoming my own best friend in the past year or so. I spent the past year in a lot of moments of loneliness, to the point where it was very crippling, where I was like, I just need touch. And it honestly, like, I had a lot of support. Like, I had, my therapist that I was seeing, and, I had friends and people. So I wasn't like completely isolated or anything like that. Like, I'm a fourth line. I'm going to always have somebody in my network and people that I can talk to. But it felt very crippling in a lot of sense, because I was just like, wow, like, I'm going through such a big transition, and it made me go deep into this conditioning and these triggers and these wounds of, being rejected or abandoned or not being lovable or feeling like there's something wrong with me, and throwing in all these like manifestor fears and traumas of, being this lone wolf and feeling like, oh my gosh, like, is this always going to be like this? And really just continuing to show up for myself every single day and say, okay, this is just an emotion. It's not going to kill me. And I know the more that I show up and love on myself, and I did a lot of inner child work in this process, that I knew that this was just temporary. Especially as an emotional being, our emotions are temporary. You know, we go through our emotional waves. And so I went through many, many emotional waves this past year. And, you know, I'm finally at a point where I'm like, okay, like, thank God I'm not like seeking things outside myself. I'm feeling more grounded in my activities and my passions and what I'm pursuing and giving my energy and my time to every single day. And it's almost like I have these blinders on and I'm like, wow, this is so incredible. Like, I love who I am and I'm enjoying what I'm doing and I'm finding purpose in what I'm doing, and what everyone else says or thinks about me has nothing to do with me. It's not personal. The fact that I'm not like, you know, in a relationship, or, you know, I don't even desire to be in a relationship because I'm enjoying like this time with myself so much, this exploring and learning and growing, and maybe eventually down the road, yeah, that might be something, but right now I'm enjoying this moment right now. And it took me so long to get to this point of really just sitting with those emotions, sitting with this transformative process of really coming onto the roof, especially as a fourth line. And so I really wanted to share my journey and what I experienced, because like I said, it can be very, very lonely. Like, I reached out to a lot of people in the human design community and I was like, is this normal? Like, why do I feel like this? And I think it's just something that takes time, and especially when you're intentional about like, or like being honest about why you are feeling lonely, and really becoming your best friend and really realizing that you are your own soulmate. Like, it is an incredible journey when you start to be really, really honest with yourself and you're not seeking for things external to fill you up or to validate you, and just being able to sit with all of the emotions and things that come up, because it can be really, really intense. And when it's just you, it's like, it's just you and you. It's you against you, and it's your mind, and it creates these stories, and it's like all of this conditioning just comes up, and it seems like it comes up all at once, and it can feel like exhausting and lonely and scary and like all the emotions, but it is something that does get better over time. And one other thing that I think that really adds an interesting adds something interesting to the mix in all of this is that as I've come onto the roof, it's almost like I'm viewing the world through this like thick pane of glass, and I'm like, I want to be engaged, but I can't. Like, there's some sort of disconnect, and it's like I'm just kind of like the watcher of everything. And while I can still like love and connect with other people, it's almost like I'm just the observer, like constantly. And it's not a bad thing. Like, it's like this very comfy place to be at, to just be the observer, because you know, you spent the first 30 something years of your life just getting your hands dirty and everything, and just like falling and bumping and hitting your head and getting hurt and trialing and erroring through everything. And now that you're on the roof, you're like, whew, thank God, like I don't need to go do that. And so it feels a little weird, because like as you go through your deconditioning journey and you're feeling lonely and you have these ups and downs, and your life is transitioning, and these new people are coming into your life and these old people are leaving, and it's just like you're just this fly on the wall and you're observing it all. And so it can almost feel like this feeling of like disconnect, and you're like, I feel like I want to connect with this person more, but you don't know how. And I think that's something, well, that is something that I have talked about with other six lines who are on the roof, and they're like, yeah, I experienced the same thing, and it's actually very normal. It's actually necessary from an energetic standpoint. As a six line, this is what we experience in this phase of our life, so that we can be the observer and we can glean wisdom from this phase in our life, so that we're not like fully immersed in something. We're getting a completely different experience to add to that layer of wisdom that we are going to continue to build on as we get older. And then when we come off the roof, and we'll have these two completely different perspectives of the first 30 years of our lives and the middle 20 years of our lives, and be able to take that and have those different perspectives in order to provide like a very unique perspective to anyone who feels attracted to us or comes into our life. And the last thing that I want to say about being a six line on the roof, I'm 35, so I'm still fairly new to it, is that it's almost as if, like, you know, as I've gone through this deconditioning journey, I'm like, wow, I'm free. And the feeling of really coming onto the roof for me was, it was like I got a complete reset in my life. And when I say reset, it was almost like I got to step outside of the game of life, and then I got to re-enter into it with a blank slate. And I had like this switchboard in front of me that was like, okay, what kind of life do you want to create? You can pick your environment, you can pick your character, you can pick your career, you can pick your friends. And so it just became like this whole like, holy shit moment. Like, this is a lot of responsibility, first of all. And I'm like, what am I going to choose? What do I really want? And so for me, there was actually a lot of experimentation of saying, okay, like, what are, like, getting clear on what my core values are, and then saying, okay, based on that, what are things that I just really naturally love and feel attracted to. And so I started to put my energy and my intention into those things, and I started to play around with that, and it just sort of evolved, and I started to become more grounded in myself and what I really, really wanted, and what I actually was really passionate about, and what I really loved, and started to feel a lot more confident and learning like who I am, and how do I really want to live my life, and where was I not setting boundaries? What type of woman do I want to, like, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up every single day? And being able to honor that and kind of play around with that. And so there was a lot of experimentation this past year of really figuring that out. And so I'm in this phase where I'm like, wow, okay, I'm getting very clear, and it's becoming much more obvious to me, like, where I'm putting my intention and what I'm really passionate about and what I'm learning. And so I'm like constantly immersed in things that I'm like just completely light me up. And I have, you know, my routine. I get up 4 o'clock in the morning and I do my hour and a half meditation, and I might go back to sleep for a little bit and I'll work out, or I'll get started on stuff for my business, and work with my clients, and I might go for a walk on the beach later or whatever, and then I'm in bed by like 9 or 10 to do my nighttime meditation before I go to sleep. So I have figured out like more of a structured way of living, and what works best for me. That was complete opposite of how I was living before and the decisions that I was making before. And so there was still trial and erroring, like, of like what worked best for me, but I was doing it in my own time, my own space, and I was able to make the decisions that weren't based on that conditioning that, you know, I've been clearing out for the last, you know, 3 or 4 years that I've really been into human design. And so there is this time, in this time period, where I'm like, I cannot consume enough information, but it's like I have these blinders on, and, you know, I don't care what anyone else is doing. I don't care what anyone thinks of me. Like, I'm fully immersed and enjoying what I'm doing and feel so excited about it. And it's interesting because I was sharing this with one of my friends who's, I think she's 3 years older than me, and she's a 6 line, she's a 6'2", and she was, you know, we're kind of comparing our notes to being 6 lines on the roof, and she's like, that'll most likely change, because like when we were younger in our 20s, we went to like Tony Robbins together, and she's like, yeah, that stuff just doesn't really seem so much of importance. You do less of that, like that seeking, and as you continue to get on the roof. So I'm really curious to see how that evolves for me, especially with where I'm at in the space that I'm in right now. So that is the last that I have to say about being 35 years old and being a 6 line on the roof. I'm sure that this will continue to change, because honestly, in the past year, as I've really transitioned onto the roof and really like gotten comfortable up here even more, it almost seems like things are changing weekly or monthly for me, and I'm just like, okay, like I'm okay with it. I know I can handle it. I've been through really deep like experiences where I moved through a lot of grief, and I know the strength that lies within me, and I'm like, okay, like I can handle this. I know that I can move through whatever happens, and I'm excited and I'm curious about it. So my perception towards these changes has shifted and changed because of all the adversity and the challenges that happened and came towards me, like when I made my transition onto the roof. And so there's definitely this resiliency and strength that was cultivated as well. And so I will definitely be making a video in the next year or two to follow up and just kind of give you guys this update of where I'm at as a 6 line on the roof. And it's kind of cool now that I really think about that, because I'm kind of creating like these diaries a little bit so that anyone who's following along or finding human design can kind of see like the transition or what I've experienced, you know, in my own journey with human design, which I love sharing my experiences because it's something that I wish that I had when I first learning about human design, because there's so much information about like this is this and this and this, and it's just straight from raw and source, and that's cool, but like there's nothing like experiential knowledge, because then it's like, wow, this is actually something that can be integrated or played with a little bit. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and I'm curious to see if there are any big things that have stuck out to you, or that you have gone through or moved through or still moving through as you are on the roof, or maybe you've transitioned onto the roof and now you are on your way off the roof. I would love to hear all of your perspectives, and then also anyone else who has a 6 line in their life. Is this something that you have noticed in those people around you, and how has that been for you? Has it been a struggle, or has this video actually helped you to understand how 6 lines actually experience life and what we're going through? Because it can feel very rocky and bumpy, and it has nothing to do with anyone else around us. It's our own internal shifts and changes as a 6 line. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.